think about getting people into these meetings, coming and interacting with other caregivers. I think we talked about the fact that somebody, one, you're caregiving, and if you're isolated, you feel like you're the only person on the planet that is going through this, and certainly that's not the case. Part of why we exist is we have something we call virtual social therapy here. Okay. And so we don't believe it's either an online support mechanism or an in-person support mechanism. We believe it's an and, right? So for those that can get to a meeting, there's nothing like sitting next to somebody and that face-to-face, that interaction of looking in somebody's eyes and listening to their story and sharing your story to help somebody out. How do you, and my dad's a perfect example. My dad's not going to a meeting. He's a Midwesterner. He's old school, right? He's not going to go to a meeting. But if you could reach out to a caregiver, or a caregiver that will be watching this, what would you say to take that first step?
Well, first, if I can say, our goal really and our mission is to reach caregivers where they are and where they need to be reached.
Yeah.
So some, and it's a few, it's a small percentage of the over 1,600 caregivers connected with us, can come to meetings. Others come to maybe some evening events or Saturday conferences. Others just stay connected via email or by calling to say, I have an issue.
We have a bunch of different online resources, and we certainly we refer to anywhere and anyone that we know can support caregivers where they are.
Yep.
And again, some might be hesitant at first, and they kind of come into maybe a larger conference where they can, sit in the back and maybe see what's happening and learn about an educational topic rather than come to a cafe, Caregivers Cafe, where it really is meant to be an opportunity for caregivers to mingle, to talk about whatever they want to talk about with no structure. Yeah. And that might be intimidating for someone, and others may love that and not have to learn about one more thing or hear about, caregiving in that medical terms one more time. So we try to give a range, and just like caregiving fluctuates, so do people's needs and how they interact. So, yeah.
Let's talk about some of the programs that the coalition has, and let's look at it in three pieces.
Okay.
One, I'm a caregiver and I'm just taking the first step in the caregiver journey.
Yeah.
The second bucket I want to talk about is the person or the caregiver that's been in the journey for a while. Maybe they're 3 to 5 years into that journey. And then what do we have for the caregiver that's been in it quite a long time and they're nearing the end of the caregiving journey? So let's start as I'm a new caregiver, a family member, a spouse, a sibling has just been diagnosed with something, and now I'm cast in that role. What programs do we have for that person?
Yeah, I think becoming a caregiver is often sudden, and so diagnosis, or if it's a birth of a child or a sudden, crisis in some way, an accident, we'd like to think people prepare beforehand. We should all be set up in our medical documents and advanced directives and all that kind of stuff the second you turn 18, right? Probably not. But if you really are hit with something suddenly in your family or whatever, the pathways for caregivers, and excuse my little notes, but this was created, I believe 2007 was the first edition. A team, and this was before my time, so Carol, please do jump in, but a team of family caregivers who had loved ones with a variety of different concerns or diagnoses and ages, and subject matter experts. So somebody who was very familiar with the mental health system, someone more familiar with disease or developmental disabilities, and then, of course, the aging population. government representatives, basically everyone that's attached to our coalition. And that can be, faith-based programs, again, government, hospital, community organizations, for-profit, not-for-profit, came together and said, if you had just become a caregiver, what would you want to know? And this is how this was created. And again, there's a lot of opportunities to find resources and numbers and information in other publications. They're all over. We have the internet. Mm-hmm. But this is meant to be a pathway, really a guide for giving people choices, starting points, wherever you are in the journey. And then there's a couple top line numbers and starting points in here, but it's really meant to go and be for anyone, wherever you're caregiving. So things to think about legally, medicine, financially, all considerations. And we've sent this out to Hawaii. I don't know if we've gone overseas yet.
Not yet.
Maybe
although we do have one
indirectly
long-distance caregiver that does have
one there.
Mom in England.
Yeah,
so
right.
That's possible.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's a how-to manual, basically, and each time we redo it, caregivers have told us things that they need in it as well. So
yeah.
So, caregiver burnout. I'm assuming that maybe in your pathways, you address that. You address the importance of respite. When you sit down and talk to caregivers, how do you begin to broach that topic?
I don't know that we need to broach it. I think it just comes out a lot of times in talking with the caregiver. Some of the things that I've seen, whenever I think of burnout, I actually think of a friend of mine who was caring for her husband, who had multiple medical issues and mobility issues, etc. And she could have been the poster child for burnout. I mean, she was exhausted. She never took care of herself. She missed doctor's appointments. She didn't heal correctly from a surgery to go back to caring for him. She wouldn't let anybody else come into the house to care for him. She felt she could do everything on her own. And the sad result of that was about a year or two after her husband's death, she herself was in his wheelchair. So that can be the absolute extreme of burnout. Would she listen to, you need help, you're kind of losing it, Not at all. But there are other people, and I think that most of the people we see are the people that are just at their wits' end and just wanting any help that is out there.
And I think it's important to note that we're not direct providers of service. So we're kind of an additional informational piece. We're really there to provide those direct service and direct people into when they're ready to say, I need help, I don't know what to do, I'm feeling depressed, or I'm feeling like I can't take it anymore. Then okay, let's make sure we connect you to somebody who can work with you and work with your family and whatever it is that you need, so you don't reach the point of complete exhaustion and physical demise, which again, the Caregiver Health Report has really shown that caregivers neglecting their own health, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, is a crisis. And there are some stats out there that show that spouses or somebody who's been caring for a loved one for a certain amount of time are more likely to pass away before the person they're caring for, if they don't get that support. And again, burnout looks different for everyone, and self-care is different for everyone, but it really is first and foremost recognizing that you need to do something, or you need help for yourself. And
people need, a lot of times, permission. It is okay to take an afternoon off. It is okay to go get your nails done. It really, you need to do that. The great analogy that is commonly used in the caregiver arena is when you are on a plane they tell you to put the oxygen mask on yourself if you're traveling with somebody who needs help. Put
Right.
it on yourself first, because otherwise, if you pass out, you're not going to be any good to them.
Yep.
Right.
So I think that's always a good reminder. The other thing too, I think a lot of our online resources can approach that in a non-threatening way. We have right now, I think, over 25 videos in our Informed Caregiver video series. Caregivers can watch that anytime, a day or night.
Yeah.
There's a ton of topics, and we typically add a new topic quarterly.
I mean, there's apps. I know you know different websites that offer meditation or exercises you can do with 5 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, whatever time you have. And some people really can't ever leave their loved one. And so we have to, again, meet the caregiver where they are. And so if it is through some sort of new technology of connection or whatever it is, if they can't go out for an hour, which is a whole other thing, and we need to support our caregivers and make that available and work toward that. But where they are now, there are a lot of different options.
How in tune is our state and local governments with this issue?
Well,
and what could we do? I mean, let's the politicians work for the people, right? Or they should be representing and working for the people and representing our best interests.
Yes.
And so I'm just thinking I can't get these numbers out of my head, and and they're obviously going in the wrong direction. How do we make our state and local politicians aware, and what can we be doing?
Well, we're hoping to use this study to do part of it, but what I will say, starting with the federal level, the Raise Care Act was approved a year or two ago. The goal of that is to form a national caregiver strategy. Given the numbers,
That's you said the RAISE? What was it?
RAISE,
The RAISE?
yeah.
RAISE, I think it stands for something.
It does.
Okay.
I don't know, it's kind of, you probably shouldn't say this.
Well,
This is stupid.
we'll look it up and we'll
It's like record and blah, blah, blah. It's to get to a national strategy. They are only now forming the committee to do that. I'm very anxious to see where that is going to go. On a state level, there has been a bill for a number of years, I think now, to try to get a caregivers task force formed in New Jersey to look at the issue. I think it is starting to creep moving right now, but that needs support. We need to do that. We need to, again, talk about it and talk about the issue. This is an issue that is costing tons of money, that is providing incredible services to vulnerable populations, and caregivers need support. Yeah.
Well, if you think about the great state of New Jersey, we're very fortunate, right? We have a lot of biotech and pharmaceutical companies here in New Jersey. In northern New Jersey, we have Mercedes-Benz and BMW of North America. We have big corporations here. Are they pulling together? Are we getting large employers and even small employers for that matter? The entrepreneurial, the mom and pop store on Main Street, we're all going to be impacted in some way.
Absolutely.
Are the employers coming together? Do we see movement there?
To a degree, there are some corporations we work with that they do invite us in to do Munch and Learn workshops for their employees. A lot of times that is through their employee resource group for caregiving. So there's some of that. And some corporations have better policies than others. But a lot of times there is a fear, and we see this when we go in to the corporations and present. The caregivers will maybe come up to us afterwards because they don't want to make it known that they are a caregiver to maybe their immediate supervisor. And because they're afraid that the supervisor is going to look at them as like every time they're on the phone, they're on a personal call.
So That's a
so
good point.
there's a long way to go in this. And we really want, and again, are putting a lot of hope into this, we want to be able to meet with the companies around this and around options that they can do for the caregivers that are not going to cost them anything and that are really going to save money in the long run. You know.
So I noticed, a lot of the foundations and not-for-profits have walks in the summer, spring, fall. October, as you know, is Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Right.
New York City turns pink. Central Park is just a blanket of pink.
Right.
Do you go to those walks in northern New Jersey with some of the foundations, whether it be, the cancer communities or different ones, and have a booth and say, hey, this is what you need to be thinking about? Yeah, we all need to raise money for a cure, right? Certainly. I mean, it would be nice if we could cure cancer.
Oh, yeah. Great.
But we also, they also have to be, in tune with this whole caregiving, these numbers, right? Are they, do we partner with them? Is there something we can do to get everybody together? I'm going to get out there and wave the flag. I want to know who I need to be talking to.
Many of the organizations that you were talking about and are already part of our coalition, and if they're holding a fair, a health fair, resource fair, we'll often go and host a table and bring our resources. A lot of them do have resources now geared to caregivers and supporting caregivers. But clearly, it's out there, but is it out there?
Yeah.
I think it takes a few key influential people to really put this in the front. And that's, again, what our hope is in talking about this and getting out the information, having people identify as caregivers as well. And I think once that happens, it's a little, if there's a person who has a high position in a company who will admit to being a caregiver and offer that to the employees and look at it in a positive way, in a supportive way, then that's the culture and climate that trickles down into that company. And that's what we're hoping, that's where it kind of starts.
Yeah.
And in any organization or anyone that we're dealing with.
Yeah. Are there monthly, quarterly, annual meetings that the coalition will hold where it is an opportunity for large employers or small employers to come and listen and be educated, and then take some of the services or the knowledge and the pathways guide back to their organizations and make it available to employees?
Yes.
Some come to, we hold monthly meetings in all 5 of our coalitions, and everyone is invited to those. I think for the most part, we go to the companies when they'll allow us in, because again, they are busier and busier, it seems, these days. We used to do a lot more programs.
They're called the Munch and Learns, which are educational topics. We have a variety of topics and speakers that volunteer to go in. And so if a corporation, organization, it could be, a local women's club, it doesn't matter. As long as they have people, about 10 people that are willing to listen to a caregiving topic or interested in one, we can match a speaker for their group. And I think a lot of these larger companies will often give our information to their employees, and every so often we will have employees and staff from those places come to either very difficult for our monthly meetings are mostly held from 9:30 to 11 a.m. during the week. It's once a month. So it's hard for people to get there, even though the information comes out from those meetings and the resources are available. We also hold conferences in most of our coalitions, at least annually. We do evening programs, so people can come to those throughout the year. Again, in all 5 of our coalitions, we'll make sure they know about other opportunities that are happening throughout the community, so that if they can't attend ours, they can go to some of our partners or friends of the coalition. Yeah.
So for somebody watching this that wants to get the pathways for caregiving, where can we go to get that?
Call me, email me.
Go on our website?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Our website has them PDF'd fully. We also have copies. We give them out at meetings, at events. If there's a caregiver that we can't match, we have mailed them out as well. And again, the full version is online, and it can be printed or looked at virtually.
Okay.
It's unitedwaynj.org.
NNJ for Northern New Jersey.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Correct. And then we're under the health section. And I will just say, I think we are updating our website. I have no idea when or what that will look like, but
Yep.
ultimately, if you go to unitedwaynj.org, you will find our information.
Awesome. So I want to end with this talking about this, your findings from this
Sure.
survey. What were some of the other key insights that maybe we haven't talked about that kind of jumped out at you that you said this is something we really need to pay attention to?
I think over 50% of the caregivers have canceled their own doctor's appointments because of caregiving. And one of the things that we would like to do is do some sit-downs with the healthcare providers in terms of thinking about co-locating services. Because if if I'm taking my mom for a flu shot to her doctor, can I just get my flu shot there too? Yeah. Why do I have to make a separate trip somewhere else? Because, I'm not going to maybe that geriatrician or...
Yeah.
Is there ways that we can really look at this outside of the box to make it easy for people to access services?
Yeah. Okay, I was just kidding. That's not the last question. Because you just triggered something in my mind. So we talked about employers.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about government. You just hit on providers. What about the insurance companies? So if I'm sitting back running a large insurance company and I'm looking at these numbers, I'm saying to my executive team, hey, we better start thinking about this. If we're not already, we better start thinking about this. Are we there? Do we need more work in that area? I mean,
Number two.
Number two. So we need a little bit more work. So,
Yeah.
I'm going to send this out to my friends who are in the insurance side of it, the large organizations. Is the study published?
Hopefully within about 2 weeks.
Yep.
Okay, about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have a follow-up, right, to get the study
Perfect.
and get it out through social, at least build awareness of the study, of maybe some of the key insights that we can begin to talk about. Because I think, that number that we talked about, the 14 to 34 billion annual, is probably, I'm sensing that's probably an understated number. If you look at it all in, right?
Probably it was an older study. Too.
Yeah, I think it's a lot more than that, right?
Oh yeah.
Just with the aging population and things that we all pay attention to in our jobs. So
And that's also not, I know I'm throwing this out of nowhere, but that's not including youth, the youth who are caregiving. So they're not working yet, and they're also being greatly affected by caregiving. Either they're directly caregiving, they're in a family where caregiving is a big center to their daily life. So most of the information we've been talking about is 18 and over, but there's a huge population of youth, of children.
It breaks your heart.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not supposed to be like that.
No.
I mean, there's no opportunity for a kid to be a kid when they're cast in that role.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we addressed it, at the Caregivers conference that we were at not long ago, right? That was one of the topics about how do we address youth and what's the impact of youth on caregiving. And there's some great stories out there, but there's some sad stories out there.
Oh, yeah.
So you see the one extreme, very young, the youth, and then you see on the other extreme, the elderly, caregiving for the elderly. It really breaks your heart to see what's going on here.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, great work.
Thank you for having me.
for coming in, and thank you for everything you do.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.